this video, we will introduce rprogramming data structure matrix. So matrix is a two-dimensional array in rprogramming, and each matrix has each element with the same mode or same type, either all elements are numeric or all are character or are logical, for example. And the matrix can be created with the function called matrix in R. So for example, if we want to create 5 times 6 matrix, which means 5 row, 6 column, so we can use matrix 1 to 30, which means 30 elements from 1 to 30, or a numeric number, integer number, and filled in a matrix with 5 row, 6 column. And if we want to create, for example, a 2 rows, 2 columns matrix with these 4 elements, and we also set a row name and a column name for the matrix. So we can use matrix function. This cells is the element we want to use, and with n row equals 2, n column also equals 2. Then by row is 2. By row, which means the numbers, these 4 numbers will filled first by each row, row-wise, right? Then also set dim names with the list function, list option of row name and column name. And similarly, we can use same function to fill these 4 numbers in a matrix with 2 rows or 2 columns, but by row is false. So the numbers will filled by column-wise. We can also access the elements of matrix or say subscription. So for example, this is a matrix with 20 numbers, 4 rows, 5 columns. So x bracket 1 comma, then it will select the first row because default influence of the comma, which means the row. So this means the first rows of this matrix are selected. If we use x bracket comma 3, which means the third column of this matrix is selected because after the comma is for the column. And if we use comma and 2, comma 4, which means the elements in the second row and the fourth column of this matrix. And if we use bracket 1, comma C 4, comma 5, which means the first row and the fourth and fifth columns of these elements are selected. So we will show all these functions commands in RStudio now. So first, create a matrix with 5 rows, 6 columns, filled with 30 numbers from 1 to 30. So if we show this matrix, so 5 rows, 6 columns, and the numbers are filled by column by default. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 6 to 10 here, and so on. Then we create a vector called cells with 4 elements and create 2 vectors with characters representing the row name and column name we will use later. Then can create a matrix with 2 rows, 2 columns with the element from vector cells, and the by row is 2. Then set row name and column name in the list option for option dim names. So if we show this matrix called my matrix, you can see this means the row name, column name, and this the elements. And alternatively, we can set the option by row is false. also 2 rows, 2 columns with the same row name and column name and the same elements from cells. We show again this matrix. So now the number filled differently from the last running. So you can select the matrix elements now. First, we create a matrix, 4 rows, 5 columns with 20 numbers from 1 to 20. So this is the matrix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 20. Then we select the first row of this matrix and select the third column of this matrix. And select the second row, fourth column's element. Element is 14. And select the first row and fourth and fifth column. First row, fourth and fifth column, actually the 2 elements are selected. You can also create a matrix with a single value 5, for example. You can use matrix 5, then the last 2 arguments representing how many rows and how many columns. So we just print the result. You can see the 5 filled to the 3 rows, 3 columns matrix. So all the elements are 5 in this matrix. You can also create a diagonal matrix with a vector representing the elements in the diagonal, and this is for the dimension 3 rows, 3 columns. So this is a diagonal matrix with only non-zero values on the diagonal. Next, we create a 3 by 3 columns matrix first. Then we should create information dimension of the matrix. You can use dim function of this matrix. So the dimension is 3 by 3. You can also show rows of this matrix using nRow function. So rows of this function is 3. Similarly, you can use n column of this matrix. So the column, how many number columns of this matrix is 3 columns. And you can also use the length of this matrix. So length is 9, which means that totally 9 elements of this matrix. You can also use the product function, which is a multiplication of the dimension of the rows and columns. Get the same result as the length of this matrix. We create this matrix again. Then you can access the first and second column using this matrix. So you can print A, comma, first column, second, which means first to second column of this matrix. First and second column of this matrix. Thanks for watching.